a 10-year study of people between the ages of 70 and 80. And all they measured was how easily they were able to get up off the floor and how many people died over that 10-year period. And it turned out that the more difficulty people had of getting up off the floor, the more of those people died. And they measured it based on whether you could get up no hands, one hand, you needed both hands to get up, you needed somebody to help you get up, and you couldn't get up at all. And then they measured how many of those different groups actually did not make it through the 10 years. So what they come to realize is that the more difficult it is for you to get off the floor, the more likely it is that you're going to die soon. And that's why this is a really important skill to understand and develop. So now I'd like you to step off the mats for this next experiment. And just find a comfortable stance, letting your arms be down by your sides, so out of your pockets, and close your eyes. And just stand there with your eyes closed for a few moments, and just notice what's happening when you have your eyes closed. Just keep them closed, keep breathing, and begin to notice that something starts to occur from the ankles up. What do you notice? You can open your eyes to speak. Anyone notice anything?
I'm swaying.
You're swaying. Did anybody else feel the swaying starting to happen? Okay, so standing on 2 feet is one of the most unstable things that can happen. I mean, really, if you think about nature, the most stable position in the world is to be like this. And yet somehow humans developed this ability to be able to just balance themselves on these 2 little points that are very far away for some of us. And yet the swaying that we feel is a reminder that we're not designed to stand still. And yet people who are afraid of falling, they grip, right? So some of you may have felt the swaying and maybe tried to stop the swaying, tensing up in your ankles. That actually leads to falling down also. That's by the balance. So close your eyes again. And this time what I'd like you to do is imagine that there's like a plumb line going right through the center of your body. So it starts in the middle of your head and drops down in between your feet. And you can even arbitrarily choose. So now go ahead, shift to one leg and balance. Just feel it. Do it again and notice, how do you do that? How do you shift your weight? Where does it go? And then come back. And now shift your weight to the other leg. Is it different? Is it easier or more difficult? Is it the same? Right? So they're not working. So now just pay attention and notice when you're lying down. Remember you have this plumb line that you can pay attention to. Just notice right now, can you sense your shape? Is there any part of you that feels a little crooked? Or do you feel perfectly symmetrical? You're going to tilt your pelvis a little bit so that your tailbone comes up and your lumbar spine, that's your lower back area, comes a little bit closer to the floor. So you're just kind of doing a little bit of a curl and returning. Just try that movement a couple times. Just feel that movement. You're tilting your pelvis and returning. Try to find some way to interfere with the way you go to your good side. Maybe tense up in your buttocks or hold your breath, or even try to duplicate what you were feeling on the other side. Just go to your good side several times, making it hard. Challenge your good side. I know it sounds crazy, but just try it. Maybe hold in your ribs or curl your toes. Just do something to make it hard. Great. And now pause a second. And now go over to your not so good side and feel what happened. Did it change? Try going back and forth. And then let the whole thing go again. Take another rest. You can slide your legs down. So we take the rest in order to allow the whole nervous system to process the information. For those of you who have ever done yoga, after you do a series of yoga asanas, postures, they ask you to lie down and rest. That's not because you're tired. The idea is that you're taking in the information that your body learned from those postures. This is the same thing, just kind of smaller and more often. So now bend your legs again. And now think for a moment, if you were to do the exact same movement that you've been doing, going from one side to the other side, but you were only allowed to use one leg, which leg would it be? So just think about it. Don't give up. Keep going. Great. And now have both feet flat on the floor. And just to see what's it like now. So pick your pelvis up and move it over to one side, put it down. Pick your pelvis up, move it to the other side, put it down. Has the quality of the movement changed in any way? Or your range of motion? Or the shape of your spine? Anything new in your experience? And then let that go. Slide your legs down. Still going down. You want to go towards your head and away from your head. So now here you go. Away from your head and then towards your head. Don't drop the pelvis. There you go. That's it. Feel your head moving? So your whole spine is lifted. And just notice, what's your contact with the floor like now? What's your breath like? Where are your thoughts? What's your state of being right now? You know, you have several things going on in yourself at every single moment. At every single moment, you are thinking, you are sensing, you have an emotional life, and there's movement going on, all for and in your own perception, right? Here's an important sentence. Feldenkrais said, we move according to our perceived self-image. So I have an idea of how I am, and so I move through life like that. But then I have an opportunity to change my perception. And what he called perceived self-image is what now in neurology they call the brain map, right? Any other things that people experienced? Did your balance change?
The range of motion changed a lot.
Your range of motion. And we weren't even looking at range of motion specifically. Where did your range of motion change?
It's just all the way back in general.
So in other words, going from side to side, did anybody feel a change in how their pelvis moved from side to side? Can you sort of think about how having that ability, that freedom, that lightness, that flexibility might impact on your movements? Those of you especially who do movement a lot. Any thoughts on that?
It can help you with your posture and also help with when you're doing exercises.
Right. So what you were doing, you were shifting your center of gravity, right, from side to side. I know that you've talked about center of gravity in this class. And if you don't have a connection and flexibility there, you're not going to be able to be a good dancer, a good athlete, or have the freedom to be able to fall and recover. Because if you're walking from up here, right, or if you're walking from up here, then you don't have any connection to your center of gravity. Once it loosens up, then you have the possibility to recover even if you trip, right? You can actually recover more quickly because you have access to your center of gravity. So having more range of motion is useful in that way. Side or another preferred side?
Well, it was more when I was like shifting from when we were in this position, changing over, like that's when I was standing for either leg, like I felt symmetrical, but like my plumb line felt more symmetrical.
Mhm.
who's-
So that's why we do it in so many different ways, because you might not feel it in one way, but then you realize, oh, I'm asymmetrical here. Maybe that might mean that I'm also asymmetrical up here, but I'm not able to sense it when I'm in relationship to gravity. And then as you become more sensitive, you would be able to sense it even